Shalom. I'm going to start off with by giving all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles of great Most and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, meaning in, meaning the, and Sham, meaning names, Yahweh, and the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, just wanted to get into this, because the world is very much moving into a war footing, right? Whether this announcement by Trump, which is to basically resume nuclear testing, right? Whether that is all whether that is it's all posturing or whatever, we understand through this, through prophecy, right, that this is certainly the time that we're getting into, right? So I want to get this is Ecclesiastes 3. Right from the top, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? Time to be born and the time to die, a time to plant and the time to pluck up that which is planted, right? Time to kill and the time to heal, a time to break down and the time to build up, right? And just jump down, right, to verse 8. It says a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, right? And we're certainly not in a time of peace, right? We're certainly in the time of war, right? Because that is what the Most High intends, right? These are the last days of the last days, right? So you're gonna start seeing more conversations, more speech about things related to being in a war stance. Okay, so this is this is interesting, right? So it's says from Reuters, October 30th, which I believe I got the note. When did I get the notification for this? I believe I got the notification for this early morning, whenever it was. But even still, Trump is in Korea at the moment, so it would have been at the 30th, I believe, when this came out, right? So you're seeing certain numbers, and you're going to see some more, right? It says U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the U.S. military on Thursday, right? So once again, so that was definitely Thursday. So Thursday, the 30th of October, right? Let's look into that word. Thursday, right? Yeah. Right. So, would you call it? Let's bring this here to this tab, right? So Thursday, right? The name Thunor's Day, right? Because I checked, so I always thought that this was more Thursday. I don't know if it's similar, but basically says the name derived from Old English, right? It was named after the Old English god Thunor, and Thor. Okay, yeah. So I derived from the name of the Germanic god of thunder, equivalent to Jupiter. Right, in Roman language, the day is named after Roman god Jupiter, who was a god of sky and thunder. Okay, so that's what it is, right? So you got Thursday, you got 30 there, right? And then you're gonna see this as well, to immediately resume testing nuclear weapons after a gap of 33 years, right? Minutes before beginning a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, right? How many nuclear tests there have been, why they were stopped, and why would anyone start them again, right? And once gonna keep talking about this show that what was it called? Turning Point. The bomb in the Cold War, right? Let me see if I can just at least get something that I can bring to the screen. All right, there's so many things, always just like, right? Move to another tab, move to this tab, so you basically see it there, right? And the turning point, the bomb in the Cold War, come away before start get a strike. Okay, but basically going into that, it goes into this whole history of nuclear tests, etc. Right? So it said between should I read it? We'll just get straight to the point. I'll just read it. Right, the U.S. opened the nuclear era in July 1945 with the test of a 20 kiloton atomic bomb at Alamogordo, New Mexico, in July 1945, and then dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August or July. I mean, that was that was it, quick. And even when you watch, there's this claim that it was to force Japan to surrender, whereas it was like Japan was done, Japan was finished. And depending on which historians you follow, right, they're basically like, they were basically ready to surrender. Okay, so reading on, right, it says the Soviet Union was shocked by the West detonating its first nuclear bomb just 4 years later. So the Soviet Union shocked the West by detonating its first 4 years later, right? It says in the 5 decades between 1945 and 96, comprehensive nuclear treaty ban, over 2,000 nuclear tests were carried out, right? 1,000 of them by the US, 715 by the Soviet Union. Britain carried out 45, France 210, and China 45. Since the CTBT, 10 nuclear tests have taken place. India conducted 2, Pakistan also 2, and North Korea in 2006, 9, 13, 16, and 17, right? The US last tested in 1992, China and France in 96, and the Soviet Union in 90. Russia, which inherited most of the Soviet nuclear arsenal, has never done so, right? So basically, let's get some more presets, right? Because when you look into these weapons, right, that there were and that you have now, right, this man truly is, taking peace from the earth, right? It's Revelation 6:4, and they went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. There was given unto him a great sword, right? And that great sword is that that missile, right? Because there is literally nothing like it, right? A single weapon that can wipe out swathes of land, right? Such that basically no one will live there ever again, right? This is Joel 2:3. I'll read from the top. It says, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion," right? Which starting from the apostle and down, that's what you're seeing, right? And sound an alarm in my holy mountain, right? Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh. It is nigh, for it is nigh at hand, right? And whatever the the reasoning behind this messaging, whether people go, it was just XYZ, but the point is the same, right? This is the direction that the world is going to, whether we see nuclear tests happening and anytime soon, right? What we do know through the prophecies is that those nuclear tests, it won't be a test right? It will be an application. That nuclear application is going to happen soon, right? I'm just giving that caveat, if you will, just in the sense, because you go, oh, you guys said that there were going to be nukes tested. It was like, it don't matter whether it actually happens. It's the spirit that is being put right into the world, right? Which is that we are on a war footing, okay? So it says back in Joel 2:2, it says, a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, that hath not been, and is talking about the missiles, right? It says, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall there be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them. A fire devoureth before them, right? This is and it's talking about the propulsion system, right? And behind them, fire for them. But basically, and behind them a flame burneth, right? It's, that's the propulsion system, right? It says the land is as the Garden of Eden before them, right? I.e., basically before the nukes are dropped, it looks what's the word? It looks beautiful, right? It says and behind them a desolate wilderness. And even when you look at the footage from the Tsar bomber, right, they actually kind of allude to that, right? If you see the translated version, okay, and behind them a desolate wilderness, right? So after they've hit, right, it's gonna be desert, right? It says, yeah, and nothing shall escape them, right? So this is the kind of weapon that we're dealing with here, okay? A weapon that nothing. If you're in that blast radius, is peak for you, right? When pursuant to the precepts, right? America gonna be hit with 200 million warheads. So that's overkill. That's why what did Habakkuk say, right? Habakkuk 3 and 8 says, "Was Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thy horses and thy chariots of salvation?" Right now, we use this to basically speak about how, you know, the destruction that is going to happen in America. You're going to look and be like, "Yo, well, you know, was why was the Lord so angry?" Okay, you know, well, let's grab, you know, an answer, right? In Second Ezra 15:6 says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." Okay, you know, you can read more into that. Okay, so let's get back to this, right? It says, "Why was nuclear testing ended? Concern mounted about the impacts of the tests above ground, underwater, and underground and underwater on human health and environment." Right, as in, because people are getting sick, right? And to this day, people are getting sick. In fact, nuclear tests help us to determine whether art is real. Okay. Let me see if I can just see. Hopefully, I can just click this. There's things that, you know, I won't read it, but you can see the headline, right? It says from the New York Times. It says how nuclear bomb tests are helping to identify art forgeries. In fact, what I can do, right? So you've got a website called archive.ph, right? You've got different URLs that you can use. Just about 1 sec. Snap. But the one that I use is archive.ph. It redirects archive.today, whatever, what have you. So I'm just doing all of the check. Oh, wait, what? Damn. Is it gonna work for me? Oh, it's just doing a thing real quick. I think it's the first time it's it's basically loaded this article. But whilst that's doing that, let me come down here, right? So it says, is it gonna work? It's just gonna take time. Nah, it's gonna take time. But basically, yeah. So whilst that's doing what it's doing, let us do what we're doing, right? This is Revelation 11 and 18. It says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth." Right, and that's one of the reasons why E is going to be destroyed. Right, because these nuclear tests have done nothing but to destroy the earth, make people sick. Right, also can grab this Isaiah 24:5. "The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof," right, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Okay, so would you call it? So that's it, right? Broken the everlasting covenants, right? So let's carry on, right? It says, "Why would you?" In fact, let me finish this. "The impact of the West's testing in the Pacific and Soviet testing in Kazakhstan and the Arctic was significant on both environment and the people. Activists say millions of people in both those regions had their lands contaminated and have faced health issues for decades." Right, and this is what the scripture says this in Habakkuk. This is Habakkuk 2 and 5, right? It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, going into his philosophies, right? He is a proud man, right? Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desires hell, and is as death," right? You know, the things that he does are things that are of just pure death, right? You know, from time you saw that actually, nah, man can't live here ever again, right? You know, the you know, a wise man would have been like, you know what, actually, you know, let's not deal with this. Let's not carry on. But no, this is Esau we're talking about. Okay. So it says, "And cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." Okay. So this is loaded. It's, I think because it's the first time it had been snapshotted, it wasn't quick, right? But you see it's from archive.ph or archive.today, right? It says how nuclear bomb tests are helping to identify art forgeries, right? Using radiocarbon dating, scientists can uncover counterfeit artworks using smaller than ever samples of canvas and paint chips, right? It says for years, scientists have been refining techniques to tame in the age of painting using radiocarbon dating, right? Which a lot of that stuff, when you look into, is actually a whole bunch of BS, right? It says now a team of researchers has dated one such artwork using a paint chip this size of a poppy seed, right? Published, blah. It's an amazing technical advancement. It says the bomb peat, right? Developed in the 40s, radiocarbon dating allows scientists to determine the age of wide range. I just get to bomber clock point. One sec. Neutral. Yeah, okay. This one ain't going into it, but basically, when I was looking into it one time, and they were going into how you had, because of all of these tests that these guys were doing, right? You could tell by amount of, basically radioactive waste in the fiber itself, right? Of the paint, right? Which basically meant that it's like, okay, if it has around about this much at that time of year, right? They were doing hella, rather at that time they were doing hella nuclear tests, right? So they were pretty confident, right? Of whether a piece of art was a fake or not, right? So if it's in the fiber of like, I think they will use what, cotton or flax. I don't know what they use for canvases, right? But if it gets into the fibers of that, then what about the body? Okay. So it says, carrying on, right, by limiting the Cold War bonanza of nuclear testing, advocates said tensions between Moscow and Washington could be reduced, right? The CTBT bans nuclear explosions by everyone, everywhere. It was signed by Russia in 1996 and ratified in the 2000s. The US signed the treaty in 1996 but has not ratified it, right? In 2023, Putin formally revoked Russia's ratification of CTBT, right, bringing his country in line with the US, right? And that's it. So it's what are the big powers doing with their nuclear weapons? The exact number of warheads each country has are secret, but Russia has a total of 5,459 warheads, whilst the US has about 5,172. Those numbers include deployed, stockpiled, and retired warheads, right? And you would be foolish to believe these numbers. Okay, I'll just leave it at that, right? Especially it says a global nuclear warhead stockpiled peaked in 1986 at over 70,000. Okay, so what, 70,000? It started making them 45, right? And that's with that technology. That's in 1945 to 86, right? They'll try and have you believe that they haven't made any more. And once again, if you believe that, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay, but yeah, man, just wanted to touch on that real quick, right? This is, certainly the direction, the spirit that this world is going into, that war footing, right? So, one to watch, there's a lot to watch at the moment, right? And, it cannot be said that, rather cannot be understated, rather, that, we are very much coming up to the end, right, of this man's society, right? Let's just grab this real quick. This is Matthew 24:32. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors, right? So as always, Lord's will edifying. Until next time, we say shalom.